Welcome to another episode of The Guy Code. I am Renaud. Sorry, and guys, on this episode, we have a very special one. We have a special guest, someone I've known for many, many years. Almost can't count it for even decades now. His name is Caleb Jesse Kinyanjui. He's a pre-sale technical engineer by day. By night, he has a podcast with his wife where they engage deep conversations about relationships and marriage in the 21st century, which actually ties to our subject for today, dating and marriage in the 21st century. So, guys, if you've never heard of Adulting Conversations with the Jessies, I really suggest that you go check it out. What we're going to talk about and what he's going to share is also covered in some of the series of episodes he's done before in more depth. And you will really get to enjoy that kind of content and information, really gets to complement this whole discussion that we have and is very needed in this day and age. So, welcome, Caleb.
Yes, thank you, Guy Code, for having me. We've been having this discussion about me, having a chance to meet on your podcast. Yeah, it's finally here. Yeah, so you've mentioned, yeah, it is a very interesting century we are living in today, and a lot of dynamics have changed in this century, and we are just in our podcast, the Adulting Conversations with the Jessies. We really try, and we're not experts. We
Yeah.
say we are not experts, but we give you our input and experiences, and we see best just to share it, because someone might learn a thing or two and it might change how they view the world in a way. We're not about to force people to make certain decisions in your life, but have an optimism of what an ideal relationship would look like in this century.
And the good thing about you, Caleb, is that you've had some testing to these theories. You've been married almost a decade now, right? A decade, two kids.
Yeah. Actually, close to 8 years. To this year will be our 8th year.
So
And
yeah.
we have a bit of experience. Yeah, two kids, boy and a girl. The girl is a teen now, and she's 14. And our son Raphael, he's 3 years old, I believe. Yeah, he's three. He's definitely 3 years.
The guys aren't good with ages, but at least you're good with
Yeah,
content and
hey.
more works. Time goes fast.
Yeah. Fact.
So it's interesting how you just mentioned, the boy and girl, and actually that's where we want to start off from. Dating and
Mm,
relationships in the 21st century. It's always been boy meets girl. You know,
mm,
just the basics. And even in
mm.
this day and age, the definition of what is a good girl to meet, who is a good boy to meet, how do we find two good individuals for this setting, for this institution called marriage or even relationships? So let's get into it. What do you think about that? What do you think a good man is? It's been a very controversial thing. Is a good man a nice guy? How people say, if you're a nice guy, oh no, that's a bad label. Is a good man,
Mm.
man. Let's just start off from the very basics of these two parties that get into this relationship.
Now, from the precedence of a man, most of us, including you and I, have seen a definition of a man through our fathers, right? And we can only emulate that as individuals. But also, as we continue to become men of a certain integrity and also our own identity, we sometimes tend to pick from one or two things in order to become the ideal man we think we are, because we're just
Mm.
emulating. And as time goes by, I think that in order to become, let's say, a man of high integrity, because three actually gentlemen that I look up to, and
Mm.
one of them is my pops-in-law. The second one is my dad, and the third one is a friend of my dad.
Mm.
um, Shout out to that man. He's called is Philip. I've
Yeah.
actually met him.
Yeah, we have actually. Yeah.
Yeah, we've actually we've interacted with him a bit. So there's a certain masculinity is not the word to use, but there's a certain projection they pour out into the world that you would want to aspire to, right?
Mhm.
And being a young father of two kids, because they've really gone through the experience. For you to be able to raise children up until they are adults, you have
Yeah.
actually done parenting. And I think for me, the one thing that stands out for me is that they have brought up their children in ways and have integrated them into the community to become people of integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my definition of what a man is someone who's able to teach and create more continuity into the world
Mm.
by the teachings that they have gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's not always about it's not labeling yourself a certain way so that you can now become this idealistic individual to the world, right? Your own, because you have your own personality and you have a way you'd want to be seen in the world. But I think that if you are your own being, then you have different ways of how to project your own masculinity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's what I would say.
And I think that's one of the things that you've actually talked about before in one of your episodes, is that, and you actually just got to go deeper in this as you've just shared, is that a man who is able to reproduce the right values, reproduce them, and be able to create some continuity in future generations. These, like you said, these mentors you've talked about are way older than you, and now they're speaking to you, and now you're speaking to Raphael. So you can see the chain of events that is coming from them making the right choices and becoming a model person who's having the right values. Like, it's a seed that grows, and you can see the fruits from actually 3 different generations. So it really takes a man who is able to know the right values to hold, the right principles, and reproduce them. He doesn't stop with them. He doesn't get to just stick with them. And what about a good lady? Believe all the men you've mentioned there are married, right? Still married, actually. None of them
Yeah.
actually is divorced. Yeah, talk about a good lady, because they have already selected good ladies to be with them for decades.
Now, I can only speak about my wife, bro, because that's the person I know, right? As a dude, you understand who you'd want to allow to parent your kids, to mother your children, rather. And these are certain character traits that, and some of them are subconscious, others are more conscious, and they really, I don't think there's a certain word that expresses the amount of value that a woman who adds value to your life is. I mean, the word I can think of is magnum opus, right? The idea that when you bring her home, right, you understand that the functionalities of the house and the raising is going to be done in a very seamless way, that you only see the fruit of it in the day-to-day experiences, right? And these are some very strong character traits that, number one, you don't, I mean, let me speak for myself. I can't speak for anyone else. Let me speak for myself. For me, the aspects about being a very good friend, having a best friend, is a very key factor. Because if you don't get along, you will not have uncomfortable conversations. For example, the episode we did on conflict resolution, those are the most uncomfortable conversations that you can have with your spouse. And if you can't have those, how will you know where or how to direct certain things if there is no difficult conversations, right? And I'm not saying that difficult conversation is what ties down to a woman of value. It's just that the ability to be able to confront certain situations, to become transparent, because again, the world has made it so that women, we have to be able to read their minds, which is very difficult to do, right? The same way, when a child wants something, when my son wants something, he will try as much to really give you actions, to give you emotions, to direct you in a way that you can understand, so that you can communicate. But as an adult, I don't think that you're just supposed to put things out there or make a face and we're supposed to know what to do. There's no that. You have to communicate. And communication is a very big factor in how I also relate with her, right? And the precepts and values not always are tied down to what the world thinks, because having your own individual opinions and also being able to articulate that makes a lot of sense. Because you hear out here, people are just going about speaking of, we guys do this thing, we guys do this thing, but as an individual, what do you do, right? How can I sort this thing? How can we go create a path together? We're not creating a path with the world. You know what I'm saying? And I think individualism is what really sets the pace for, a fantastic woman. Because when you understand your own self values, integrity, and how you want to continue in a space with someone who is an adult, right? There's a lot of fine tuning that both of you have to do in order to create that seamless interactions together. All right? Yeah.
And it's interesting how you just broken this down. You've said a lot there. Just even to pick up on a couple of things you've said is number one, the capacity. Number one, actually, number one, a good woman is invaluable. Like you said, you can't notice in the grand scheme of things that I like this lady. Like you can see how an app benefits you or a gadget benefits you. It's almost invaluable. There are things that you can see that, oh, like there's a meal, she cooks lunch, dinner, and there's some things you can't see. She handles that you didn't know even need to be handled. So there's that level of capacity. And number two, it's not even performative because for most people, they are boxing women and wives, even husbands, into a very performative role. Husbands protect, provide, stop. Women nurture kids, take care of the house, full stop,
Full
So
stop. Yeah.
see these roles that we are imposed on, but we don't know how it really fits in each particular relationship, because each relationship is different, each person's dynamic is different. Even though it's a very general statement, protecting, providing, it's as vague as it comes. It has to be really rather fine-tuned to understand what it will mean for both of you to be successful in the long term, like very practically. Everyone can come into even how most churches like to give premarital counseling. They can just give you a general book, like, okay, this is what you would need to do, but now you have to twist it and make it apply to each context because we don't know how your life will be. Um, so let me pick up on something you just mentioned. A quote is understand her own values. I just want to pick up on identity, right? We're talking about boy meets girl. Which stage should this boy meet this girl? Which stage should this man meet this woman? How important is it for them to first understand themselves individually, have a sense of identity individually, before they grow and come together to create an identity together, whether it's the Jessies, whether it's the Osweras, whether it's the Phillips and all that, So boy meets girl, and when do we meet? Is it very important for this lady to meet this man after she's identified herself, after she's realized herself, before? Because there are some guys who are really having this pressure of like, man, we need to get married before 25. After 25 is just crap. Soko imeharibika. Forget it. You're just getting the leftovers of everyone else. When, boy meets girl? What's the best time?
So primarily, boy meets girl, immediately they understand what interaction is. I see my son interacting with just from a playful perspective with another girl who's his age, and you can see whenever she's out, he always wants to see how to protect her, right? Which is a primal instinct, right?
Yeah.
You protect, right? This is anyone you care about, your instinct will be to protect.
Yeah.
But as you become an adult, the world has, for lack of a better word, politicized what being in a relationship is about. And there is no readiness, but there is preparedness. Okay. So now, because society is trying so much to give pressure to the newly upcoming relationships, it kind of really changes how they see themselves as individuals. Because if it starts out with them, why don't they decide when the right time is? You get? And
Mhm.
this is usually very common with in-laws, whereby you find
Mhm.
you've just started, they're already talking about marriage. You don't even know if you're going to be with this person the next 3 or 4 years, but they're already starting to push the narrative
True.
towards getting towards marriage and then kids. And all that, they don't understand that you as individuals also have to still get to know each other. Because
Yeah.
when you rush these things, you hear so many stories of people getting divorces after 6 months down the line because things didn't go a certain way, or they've now paid a certain bride price, and now this person feels like we need to rush into the next stages. And
Mhm.
ideally, when you're ready for something, you will get to the next level. That is life, right? No
Yeah.
pressure from any corner. But you find that once they get to the stage whereby it really gets difficult, people start checking out of the relationship. And then it becomes more of a mandate than it is just the enjoyment of the relationship. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
challenges don't come by. It's just that the way you position certain aspects of your lives together, really can create two different pathways, right?
Mhm.
And I honestly think that we need to stop listening to what society has to say. Because if you're ready for something, you yourself will take yourself, right? The
Mhm.
day, for example, I decided to move out of my folks' house, it was an independent decision that I made by myself, right? Because
Mhm.
I was ready, right? But if
Mhm.
I was not ready, then either way, something would have propelled me outside of the pressure of society. You get?
Yeah.
And I think that's where now relationships really take a deep dive, because there's no individualism in the relationship for it to
Mhm.
now create its own independency. Isimame peke yake. I get.
Mhm.
Mm,
So most people, right, especially in this day and age, are very susceptible to what all these
yeah.
narratives. That's the reason why we're having this conversation. There are so many narratives on the internet.
Mm, mm,
Everyone feels like is the best title right now is a relationship coach, a
yeah.
matchmaking coach. And even when it comes to reality TV shows, the dating shows are so popular. Love is Blind,
Mm,
Love Island,
mm,
all these things. So people are getting to see these perspectives and strategies and quote unquote realities of relationship that are
mm,
not really reality in themselves.
mm,
So
mm,
when these two people when they're able to know themselves and know for themselves, not
mm,
what people are telling them,
mhm,
how would you say is the best way to shut off the voices that don't serve them? For example, you mentioned you have three mentors.
mhm,
How do you know from all the men you've interacted with in your life that these are the three
mhm,
voices that are sound and that give good advice and not the guys on the internet and not, the influencers who are saying, man, if you can't afford to take your girlfriend to Dubai and guy her a Lamborghini, if you can't make this kind of money, you can't be in a relationship, you can't. So how do you advise the right people? How do you advise people to shut off all the noise that is really
mm,
increased volume, especially
mm,
on the internet and even socially?
mm. It's a good question. So when it comes to isolation, voice
Mhm.
isolation, you have to look at what exactly is reality and fiction, right? All these
Mhm.
people that talk about materialistic stuff. I'm like, if your intention for getting into a relationship is to be considered as all you'll receive is just material things, then you don't understand the value of why you're in the relationship in the first place. So you
Mhm.
have to really define for yourself, why am I actually getting into this space, and what benefits are there, or how will I grow when I'm in this space?
Mhm.
And in all sincerity, there's a lot of wealth to go around. There's a lot of material stuff to go around. It's good to appreciate each other. And appreciation can be in certain possessions, right? That's
Mhm.
one way of appreciating. But again, too much of anything is not good, right? When you are overstimulated with a lot of things, the brain shuts down, right? So are you in the
Mhm.
relationship to shut off, to remove logic from yourself? Or are you in the relationship to create value for this other person who's actually with you, right?
Mhm.
And that's where now you always have to, I go back to kujijua kama mse, like knowing
Mhm.
who exactly you are as an individual, because that is usually the stepping stone to what gets you into or what gets you not into a relationship, right?
Mhm.
So the isolation is of two things. Who you are as an individual allows you to filter out what is noise and
Mhm.
to be observant. Like for myself, before I make a decision, I have to run it by my conscience to see what does this, in an ideal world, what does this look like for me, right? And will it serve the purpose that I am, is it in line with the purpose I have for myself and the people who are with me, right?
Mhm.
And then once I answer those two questions, I then go to the individuals, to my mentors, and each of them play a very different role. They don't all have the same, they don't all receive the same levels of questions because each of them have different experiences. And
Yeah.
you'd want to know who can I go to for this information that will then guide me this direction that I want to go, right? Because
Mhm.
too much information again can also keep you at a certain confusion, right? A certain confused state, right? And so with isolation, once you know where exactly you want to go and how it's going to serve you, then you are able to figure out who exactly is the right person to give you this information. And sometimes it just comes out of the blue because you honestly want a genuine solution for yourself, and you don't want to constantly have to keep asking people, because then not everyone's opinion is actually valuable opinion. Hence why
Mhm.
we're having too many, there's so many podcasts out here that are just giving banter but are not actually giving sense of direction. It's a very small minority, you know.
Mhm.
And for me, that's what I would say.
I like what you've just shared because the truth in it is, without it, all goes back to what is success for you. You know, with all these narratives, I've always believed that there's a certain agenda. There are people who have certain agendas to spread these narratives, to say, oh, you're not a man until you do this. You're not a man until you do this other thing. Or you're not a woman. You're not beautiful. You're not worthwhile until you do such and such. So these kind of narratives are really peddled by certain people who have motives that I have a very strong reason to believe are very sinister, and
Mm,
they do more harm than good. So I would like
mhm,
to bring in the next question of, like, what do you think are other dangers that come in and we need to look out for when picking individuals for marriage? Can we even talk about on the male side? Some males are just super lustful. I want the chick
mm.
with the curviest butt, right?
Badass.
Yes. And because that's the most, the most eligible woman to be around, and it will also boost my image, max aura and all that stuff.
Mm,
What are the other dangers we have? Are there more than being materialistic? Are there more that even is lustful? Men who are lustful, men who are
mm.
just moved by the outer appearance and just want to get into relationships and marriages for a lot of sex.
I see. Now, that's a complex question, bro. You've asked.
Mhm.
Men are primarily driven by what they see.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is the first aspect about an interaction with a woman, right?
Mhm.
What you see. But then there's what is in her mind. Okay.
Mhm.
Because that level of the mindset is what tells you how are you going to actually interact with this person. Is it going to be long term, or is it going to be a very brief moment? And dudes, when they want to be in a serious relationship, when they really want to be committed, they will pick out aspects that are geared towards the longevity of the relationship, right? Because like I mentioned, for a guy is to protect and provide. That's just a primary instinct. It's not
Yeah.
a society thing. And for a woman is to care, right? She cares
Mhm.
for you and so she will show you the level of compassion and care that comes with her, right? But there's also what she says, right? You even have had an experience, right? A couple of experiences whereby you meet certain women and you're like, you gauge their mind and like, nah, I don't think
Yeah.
this is not gonna go anywhere, right? And there
Yeah.
are some you engage them and you find out that this is someone that this is someone who is thinking not just for, they want to solve the world's problems. You understand?
Yeah.
And the problem solvers are the ones that help you build, or help both of you guys complement each other in the sense that you can be able to build together, right? And being the with a man and a woman, it's a bit complex. It's a bit
Mhm.
complex because you don't know what attracts one to the other, right? The society has made it that the first thing you look for is the curves, okay?
Yeah.
The second thing you look for is, can she do the basics that are in the home? I'm like, as an individual, when you're a bachelor, for example, like myself, when I was a bachelor, I didn't say the reason why I want to get a woman in my house, or rather the reason why I want to get married is that she should be able to do these chores for me. I'm like, I do chores for myself, right?
Yeah.
So is she coming just to become my house help, or is she coming in to become my partner, right? Because a
Uh-huh.
partnership means that you guys can both really confidently strategize and actually build things, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you have the, very few look at those differences, because once it's when you start thinking about it as a stature or as a mileage for your masculinity, then you completely shed off her as an individual. She's a person just like you. And I
Mhm.
think what makes it even more complex is when you add titles to it,
Mhm.
because immediately I say you're a managing director for a company. Managing director tells you that you have an overall agenda for the company that you have to
Mhm.
carry out in order to achieve certain goals that have
Yeah.
been preset by the company, right?
Mhm.
So already that tells you this is a role you have, right?
Yeah.
But in a relationship, you have to realize that when they're coming in as a person, then you are allowed to see them as they are, not as a role they are playing.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
When you see that, when you see them as that, then you strip off the pressure that comes with being in a role. All right?
Mhm.
And this is greatly what I feel is a challenge, because once you give it a title, then you expect it to function a certain way, right? Character
Mhm.
defines name and function, right? Name
Yeah.
defines name, character and function, right?
Mhm.
And immediately that happens, then there's no other way of seeing it, right? That means
Mhm.
you're the one who you basically have rules.
Yeah.
And my wife and I are have been really rewiring ourselves in that we shouldn't see each other as roles, but as
Yeah.
people in the relationship who are actually partnering because we want to enjoy life together, right?
True. Yeah.
And that's primarily, I can say, just strip off the names, you know what I'm saying? Strip off the titles. I think relationship would do much better for sure. Because when it's boyfriend and girlfriend, it's fantastic. But
Mhm.
when you're giving a title, what happens next? You just know you have obligations upon obligations. All right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what you've just started, I think that what you've the topic and the segue you've just come up across, or like to get into it, because talking of titles, right now we have even we had talked before, and we even mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I believe, is that there are some titles and labels that have become super, almost like cuss words. Calling someone wife material, calling
Mm,
someone,
mm,
you know. Do you feel like there is a place for these labels, right? Or does the fact that these labels are really pushed in a way and are defined in such a very solid way by society is what makes people want to push back? Okay, a wife material to many ladies right now, they feel like that's a laborer, a free laborer,
mm,
the one who's supposed to be here taking care of just his two kids,
mm,
cleaning the house, cooking, making sure everything is
mm,
right. Um,
mm,
if I can do that competently without complaining, then I'm a good wife
mm,
material. What do you think about
mm,
such labels that, like you said, as in the analogy used of being like a managing director? You know,
mm.
now that one it comes with a certain extra labor to it.
Yeah. So there's something that I feel the what do you call them? Baby bloomers. Is it baby bloomers?
Boomers, yeah.
Our boomers, yes, baby boomers. There is a certain way they lived their lives in marriage, and those women understood the benefits of being in, for example, being a housewife. Is that there's a value to it, right? You find that most kids who are raised by a present mother, an active present mother, turn out to be very competent individuals and very upright individuals on this earth, right?
Mm,
Like actively present, not active in that you have a house help, right? And you're taking care passively, but you also have a career you're pursuing. In the sense that the help is complementing in areas, for example, like if you choose to homeschool, for example, right?
mhm,
Your attention is solely dedicated towards the educating of the children, right?
mm,
And so you would need the extra help. But
yeah,
the children are not entirely being raised by the help. Okay?
yeah.
So understanding the word wife material is not what I mean, I would say just strip it off, Kabisa. I would say
Mm.
use the word virtuous woman. Okay?
Okay,
Now
from
virtue, you know what I'm saying? Because think about it, bro. If I say you are a very you know what's the example I can use? I can say if I say you are a man of virtue, right?
yeah.
Virtuousness means that there's a particular energy you carry that
Mhm,
people, very few people have, and the ones
mhm,
who see your energy want to identify with it more, right? That
mm,
means
mm,
there's a certain value you hold,
mhm,
right? And the same thing goes for this word that is this wife material thing. It's a flimsy word to mean that you complement what I've already built kind of thing, right? But it's not you are a value addition to what I am, to the direction I am going, right? And you
mhm,
play a very significant role, right?
mhm,
In other words, that's the idea about virtuousness, right? And so
mhm,
the women, the baby boomers, the wise who are in that generation have to speak to these women now, right?
mhm,
To tell them that there is a benefit towards being there for your children up until they're adults, because we've really femininity has made it so that women are seriously empowered, but they're also
mhm,
seriously neglecting their children. So what are you paying
mm,
for? You've become such an independent woman who's built her career on I mean, fantastically, you've built your career,
mm,
but then in the home, you're not seen as a go-to person when your child is going through a situation, right? You're
yeah.
not there for your child. That moment whereby the child is it was actually a conversation I was having with a pal of mine, that she said she wants to be able to be there for her child because so here's just a brief story.
Mm,
This boy, this 4-year-old boy, was injured during a football match. And
okay.
everyone, as he was going home, you could see he was limping, and everyone around him was asking, "Are you okay?" So he has balancing tears, he's holding himself, and he's really focused not to cry, but everyone
Mm,
can see he's injured. But when he got to the house, met
mhm,
his mother, and the mother asked, "Are you okay?"
mm,
The boy completely broke down. And the
mm,
mother, and went to comfort the boy, and the boy completely felt the warmth of the mother, because it was a moment of I am in pain and my
mm,
parent has come to make me feel secure.
mhm, okay.
That feeling cannot be replicated by anyone else other than a present mother. right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to realize why we want to get into the relationship is because we are nurturing a generation that will show compassion and care. And sometimes you don't get to receive that with other people. No one can replace that. No one can replicate that other than a mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that those are some of the different conversations that need to be had with this generation, millennials and Gen Zs, to be able to
Right.
redefine why they'd want to get into a relationship in the first place, right? Because
Mm.
it is not just mtoto anakuja na sahani yake. It is
Mm.
anaweza kuja na sosa, bro. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
How are you going to manage that? Because there's a huge difference in raising a child and in taking care of a child. Raising a child, you have to constantly teach them, admonish them, continuously be available for them. Because taking care of them means you can clothe them, feed them, and make sure they are taken care of, right? Full
Mm-hmm.
stop. But what happens? What does the next level look like? Do you leave them when they're teenagers? Do you leave them when they're adults? And then you no longer can take care of them, because even as adults, as long as both of you are present, you will still have to parent that child because they're your
Yeah.
child. Yeah.
And it that now that brings to light the really long-term investment that comes with being in these relationships, the really long-term responsibility that comes with getting to really. There are some people who have been listening to what you have been discussing and they're like, man, this sounds like a lot of work. This adulting conversation is almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it's not for me. What do you say about people who say, honestly, marriage um is not for, doesn't work for the most part.
Mm,
Marriage doesn't work. They feel like marriage isn't for them. And society is like, okay, by the way, if you say marriage isn't for you, you're a failure.
mm,
Something's wrong with you. You're disciplined, you're not an adult,
mm,
grow up.
mm,
Do you feel
mm.
and are you convinced that this institution of long-term relationships is a must and is it for everyone?
Well, I can say it's not for everyone. It's honestly not
Mm-hmm.
for everyone. There's something that being in a relationship does, or rather being in marriage does to a guy on a personal level. It brings out the most important aspects of being an aware human being.
Yeah.
It elevates your awareness to a
Mm-hmm.
certain, to a really heightened degree.
Mm-hmm.
However, no one should convince you you should be ready for something when you're not.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually are not ready and you don't want to be in marriage,
Mm-hmm.
then it's just not for you,
Yeah.
right? There are long-term relationships. There are really long-term relationships, and well, I saw somewhere that long-term relationships are considered those come and stay marriages,
Yeah.
but by law is you actually have to be declared that you are married by
Yeah.
law, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in a relationship, then you're just in a relationship and it's just fine. No one,
Mm-hmm.
you don't actually need to define it. But as you go along and as you both of you grow in the relationship, then you can now figure out, are we in it for the long term? And
Mm-hmm.
you realize most women, a lot of women will definitely pose a question to the gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Are we in it for the long term? Are we in it? What does the next stage look like for us? Because it's a genuine
Mm-hmm.
question a woman has to ask, because it has to do
Mm-hmm.
a lot with biology, right? And if it's not for you, I feel just don't waste the individual's time. If you're not willing to be in a long term relationship, because the question will come as a guy, utaulizwa hiyo swali, where are we going from here? You understand?
Yeah.
Because if you meet a woman that says, I want to be in a relationship, but I don't want to be married, then there has to be a definition as to what that looks like. We don't know what
Yeah.
that looks like. I wouldn't know what that looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you see, me, I've chosen this direction. Maybe we have someone who can give us that understanding as to what that looks like and how they'd
Yeah.
want to thrive in their personalizingness. You get?
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, society shouldn't dictate what exactly both of you should do and how you should go to the
Yeah.
next level. I just think that immediately you do that, the happier people are going to be. Because it's not life or death if you
Mm.
don't have kids. It's not life or death if you don't get married.
Yeah.
There are other things in this world that are there outside of this union we call marriage, and it's as
Yeah.
sacred as it is not it is like trying to get a PhD in marriage.
Mhm.
Every individual that comes into it comes out on the other side a very different human being,
Yeah.
right? And it is for the few. And if you can't hack it, you can't hack it. No one, you shouldn't go around listening to people saying that you're not manly enough, or you're not woman enough if you're not in a relationship, or you're not married. It's not set in stone that we should do that. It is what has been
Yeah.
projected the most,
Yeah.
right? And it's what has been seen to be working. But if it's not working, it's not working. No one should
Yeah.
hide in the first the image of marriage when it's tough, right? And if you see
Yeah.
yourself not going there, then just don't go. Even if someone tries to convince you, and I think people should just respect people's decisions. If I've
Mhm.
chosen to do something this way, you shouldn't now treat me a certain way or look at me a certain way because I've decided to take a life on a different level, right? Or
Mhm.
I've decided
Mhm.
not to follow the pack. It's facts on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And so I think mainly, if you don't want to do it, you just don't want to do it. No one should convince you that it's something that you'd want when you actually don't. I think that really should be a really strong ground in
Mhm.
which individuals really, really ground themselves on.
And it's a truth that you have to sit within your truth. Like you have to understand that if long term relationships are not for you, then that's fine. If they are for you, then that's fantastic. Because it all no pressure. I think right now society has really pressured guys to at a certain age you should do this, at a certain age you should have done this. And everyone is trying to keep up with this. You don't know if it's called rat race that the world is
Mm, it's
is
on right
projecting.
now, yeah. Mm.
And I actually want to bring in the other end of the coin, maybe on the other extreme. I won't say it's a extreme, but another reality. We have been talking about society, but let me just get to specify it. We are two African men. And in this context, we know there are some guys right now who, not even guys right now, guys have been. When it comes to marriage, they have felt that a man should have his generous share. So, what do you think about the role
Mm.
of polygamy? Guys who are listening to this and said, well, you know what? What you're sounding like, yeah, I can be a husband, not just to one. I can do two,
Mm.
three things. So, what do you think about that kind of situation? That these are the things that has happened to us culturally. It has worked for what you have been told, even for what we're witnessing right now. There are some grandfathers who, by the way, this is second and third wife. There are some boomers right now who have two or three wives. So, what do you think the role of polygamy is in this society? And I don't know if you just want to speak for yourself. If you personally,
Oh man. So, so it's interesting you've asked me that, because last week actually I was having a conversation with a Muslim lady, and
Mhm,
she's currently not married, and she lives with
mhm,
her folks, and she said that in their community, the Muslim community, you can marry up to 4 wives, okay,
mhm,
as long as you're able to take care of all four, right? And being a Muslim, they're very generous in that
mhm,
there's a lot of understanding that goes into having these wives, right? It's an
uh,
introduction, right? Like also Neo has 3 wives, right? Is it
uh,
3 or 4 wives?
think through.
I think he has 3 wives. He has three
Mhm,
wives as well. How he managed to do that is it was simple. He said he came to an understanding
mm,
with the first wife about these other women, and they agreed they
mm,
will all dwell together. They
yeah,
will stay together as the 3 wives, no trouble. Now
mm,
that is another level of maturity I gotta respect, right? So if you're able to handle them, whatever has motivated you to have 4 wives, that's your motivation, bro.
mhm,
But I think it is entirely up to you guys to now have that understanding. And kazi tu ni kuelewana. If you're able to understand each other and dwell together, then you're all good. But I'm for one wife, bro. I'm for one woman.
You, you
Because
know, yeah, yeah. Actually, I just wanted to bring in the fact that even how you mentioned Neil, interestingly, his situation is so interesting because he said he was first married in the conventional way, your
mm,
way, my way, one wife.
mm,
And the reason why he came into this, actually, I can say, throuple, like he doesn't call them
mm,
wives, he calls them partners, is
mm.
that he realized in his conventional marriage, he is not a one woman guy, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's not a one woman guy. And he just said, you know what, let me just be honest and live my truth.
yeah.
I need more than one woman. So
Yeah.
is it a reality that most men have to experiment and said, with this thing of relationship, you have
Mm,
to try a couple of things to figure out what goes for you. Like, do you think, like, for those men who have been in conventional relationships, long-term
mm.
relationships, and realizing, by the way, having one woman, honestly, I
Is
can't. Maybe just,
you know, what the tricky part about that is that, you see, in Africa I can't say encouraged, but
mm,
it's only seen with the Muslim community. And I think it has to be a rewiring of the mind in order to
mm,
understand that this is something you can actually do, right? And it has to start from the beginning, whereby this is this is the first one, but I think that I would want to have two or three extra more
mm,
wives in my house.
mhm,
Most women are not for that. Most, I can say, I've only seen it a lot in Africa. One woman, one man. How it changed is because from the get go, it was never a conversation that was had. And so when
mhm,
things starts to shift, it becomes more of, I mean, from what I have seen, it becomes more of what the woman is not doing to,
mhm,
I want to do one or two things. And it also becomes, we've been together for this long time, I want to do something else, but
yeah,
it has to do with the shifting of the mind, but it has to start at the get-go when the relationship is very new, right?
mhm,
And here's the thing, you can actually, as a dude, you can actually be with one woman for the rest of your
mm,
life. Case in point, my father-in-law is actually celebrating his 50th anniversary. Okay,
wow,
he has had one wife, okay? And that's that. And what has he
mhm,
done? He has, sometimes you just aspire to be like that man because the things he's done to ensure that his marriage lasts as long
mm,
as it has lasted, and to
mm,
have all this, because we are so many, we are like so many. And I realized that it is because it is not just him who cultivated the relationship to bring it to where it is,
mhm,
rather the marriage to bring it to where it is both my mother-in-law and father-in-law cultivated it together. Okay,
mhm,
it's not a one person, it's not a one man show. I think that's what
mm,
we really need to understand. It has never
mhm,
been a one man show. And immediately we start, because if you think about it, there's nowhere it says that a woman can have more than three husbands. You understand? Has it ever been
no,
said? It's
nope,
never been had. But
never.
the idea of that is insane. You see,
Yeah,
it comes from it's mental.
yeah, like
It's
that.
mental.
They will use a word that most people don't want to say. We don't want to say on this show, and it starts with a H.
You
And
know,
it's not housewife.
you see, when you see that
Yeah,
big, that's a problem. That's a problem. But when a guy does it, it's okay.
yeah.
Oh man.
It's a reality.
So yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It completely shifts your a way of thinking.
yeah.
And so we have to you have to realize that there has to be a conversation that needs to be had around that.
Mm-hmm,
If she's not willing to have a second wife, then I think if you're the one who's looking for two or three wives, then it is prudent. The mature
mm-hmm,
thing to do is just leave this one. That, in my opinion, that
mm-hmm,
is to leave this one, look for one who is able to agree to that setup, and then
mm-hmm.
all of you can can coexist together.
Yeah.
But this thing of doing things behind women's back, man, these guys are they have some intuition. Me, I can't even tell you where it comes from. But
Yeah.
they will always find out. And the thing between a man and a woman is very difficult. You don't want to engage in it. This is why you need to have a license for that type of thing. But I'd say if you want to if you want to be polygamous, start when the relationship is just a baby. Because right there and then, you will save yourself a lot of tension in the relationship as it grows, because you're bringing these other women in and it's growing together. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's not seti anza tu nini msichana tu anashtukia ati there are other women in my house and I
Mm.
didn't know. You know what I'm saying? And then you have these crazy fights that are happening all over the place for
Imagine.
no reason. You know what I'm saying? That's how I can answer that question.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, but yeah, we just have to get into it. And it leads to the next one of how you're saying that starting and getting the foundations from the very beginning, understanding, okay, what do I want from the very start to start everyone to start on the right foot. But also you mentioned that you grow together. So
Mm,
we all know that even right now in your own situation and your own
mm,
marriage, not even to mention your
mm,
father-in-law, there has been
mm,
situations whereby in the last 8 years or for yourself, in the last 50 years of your father-in-law,
mm,
how you started isn't how you are right now.
mm,
How would you speak to the evolution of people in a marriage, the evolution of how people grow um into a marriage, as in how people grow as they get married from year 1, year 2, maybe up to year 50? How do you manage that? How we first got married in our 30s, maybe our late 20s. Now we're 40s. We have a teenage daughter like you, or two teenage children. We're different. How do you get to manage the new versions of yourself and your partner as you continue to grow in this institution of marriage and just life? Fuck, I'm growing
mm,
older and I've never
mm.
been this age before. I'm adulting in
Yeah,
stages I've
yeah.
never adulted before.
You've been pushed to the limit.
Yeah.
So me, I can probably summarize it this way. We can only from the people who've gone before us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We can only pick experiences from them.
Mm-hmm.
Because we some of us we are each we each have our individual experiences, but we
Mm-hmm.
also have similar encounters because we are doing life together, right?
Yeah.
And in order to make it stronger, we always
Mm-hmm.
have to understand that we cannot do certain things on our own anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stages are coming. Like just in my family, we are all in very different stages of life, but we still
Yeah.
manage to dwell together in one house, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And in order to do that, you always have to pick from experiences from individuals you want to aspire to, or you see who seem to be doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
Because without trying to wing things, sometimes I think is really not the best thing to go about, the way to go about life. Because you find that a lot of these great speakers out here keep saying that you'd rather ask a question and look foolish at the time, but then when you get out of there, you have more knowledge than you did having
Yeah.
not asked the question, right?
True.
And I think there has to be that level of awareness that I don't know where I am right now. I've never been on this level, but I know this person who I have with me, we are doing it together. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just like a kid when they start walking, right? They don't really have a sense of direction about where they are going. They just are holding on to whatever feels like is stable to get them to the next level where they can now stabilize and walk independently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being able to pick and ask the right questions to give you the right feedback is what really helps you grow and sustain that relationship. And also from observation, because some things are just you don't need to ask a question, you just need to observe. So putting
Mm-hmm.
yourself in spaces that allows you to observe and to allow your conscious your subconscious to take action to figure out certain things that you guys are going through also does help. It really does help. So it is just being able to pick out who are the best people to advise you, and also helping asking each other questions, reevaluating yourselves, because so much changes when you have the first when you have the first child. When the first child comes, it's very chaotic. You don't even
Mm.
understand yourself, right?
Yeah.
But when the second child comes, you now have a sense of direction as to how to
Mm.
deal with certain things in life together. right? And that's ideally how that growth happens, because you're willing to help each other out, then you can do it together. You're not doing it as individuals. Understand?
Yeah.
I think that's my summary.
Actually, that's true, and it's a good summary because um, they say learn and relearn. It's a constant state
Yes.
of learning. It's a constant state of
Mm,
learning. You can learn through observation. You can learn through communication. You just learn how to grow because once you stop learning, you start dying. And when you think that
mm,
something or someone is static, that's when a lot of trouble gets into the situation. And I think also, of course, you're getting to learn to listen to the right voices, hear some of the right
mm,
voices. Talk about Guy Code, we talk
mm,
about adulting conversations with the justice. Tune
mm.
in to these voices. Subscribe to these voices. Literally. Subscribe to these voices. Literally.
For
They
sure.
really are the good ones. And I believe they will get you to the right places. So, yeah, just wrapping up the conversation, just the last, maybe just the last summary and last word you like to share about this conversation that you want the listeners to hear about this subject.
Mhm,
And of course, what more they can expect from the conversations you'll have on your side on this same topic
mm.
and others in the same in same space.
Right. So me as Caleb Jesse, me what I can say is that when you partner up with someone who really has challenges you to become a better person, you really grow. And I think my wife Kay, I call her Kay, she's really been a great addition to my very aggressive life. And I feel like I've really grown significantly in many
Mhm,
ways that I couldn't imagine were possible.
mhm,
So there's a benefit to that.
mhm,
And if you choose just to live your life as a person without
mhm,
having another person, and it's still
mhm.
fine. No one should make you feel like you need it so much, because trying to dwell together as two people can be a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah,
Don't be in it for the thrill. Be in it because you actually want to add value to your life in one way or another.
yeah, yeah,
And also, if you haven't listened to season 1 of Adulting Conversation, definitely go there and listen. Season 2 is
yeah.
coming out soon. We'll drop very soon. We'll give you dates. And we're going to have some very, very interesting topics. I don't know if I'm allowed to share, but we will have very interesting topics which will are geared to this entire conversation, these conversations that we've actually had on your show. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that, for sure.
Yeah, great. Just as interesting as this one has been, hopefully for all the listeners, you've gotten
Yeah.
to get some insight that really will help you. Thank you, Kyla, for joining on. Thank you for listening. And guys, until next time, we shall talk soon. Bye.
Cheers, man.